Hello and welcome to the Finance Room. In today's episode, we'll have a look at the fintech space. So the fintech space is in particular interesting because there's this decade-long trend from cash to digital. And the established players are Visa and Mastercard, and they are ginormous at the moment. They have approximately 700 to 800 billion in market share. And other players like PayPal, they attract customers from the customer perspective. Then there's also Square bypasses Mastercard and Visa most of the time by making use of its own cash app. And then there are also players like Coinbase, which is a bit more about cryptocurrencies, Robinhood, Plate, SoFi, Toast, Bill.com. All those players compete for market share, and the space in general is highly competitive. So first of all, I wanted to talk about Stripe. So Stripe is the go-to company for merchants at the moment. You can implement Stripe into your website with a few lines of code, which makes it really attractive for merchants in general. They also have other products, but the main product is Stripe Payments, which is their main business. Then they also have Stripe Checkout, Stripe Elements, Payment Links. Those are in particular interesting. It's kind of a new innovation from Stripe. You can send out those links and then you can open those links directly in iMessenger or somewhere else. And with those links, you can directly pay and put in your credit card information, and you don't have to kind of access another site. So it's really an innovation with which you bypass the big players like Visa or Mastercard. Then you have other products like Stripe Radar, which is a fraud detection mechanism that's useful for every startup. You have Stripe Connect, billing, invoices, terminal, so everything a business needs. Then there's Identity, Stripe Climate, and Stripe Financial Connections. And really for startups, you also have Stripe Tax, which helps you do your taxes, and Stripe Atlas, which helps startups get funding in the beginning, because Stripe is able to see every transaction every business is doing. They're able to give loans to those startups and help them out in the beginning. And it's really driving a lot of innovation in the space. So Stripe Atlas is basically an acquisition tool to find new customers, which make use of Stripe Atlas in the beginning. And then the hope is that once those companies get bigger, that Stripe is gaining a lot of high-value customers, which use Stripe payments, and then Stripe is able to generate those fees through transactions and value-added services. So Stripe really offers everything a business needs, and it's really simple. If you want to learn more about Stripe, I also wrote a Substack newsletter about it. So in there, I write a bit more about the rise of Stripe itself. I especially highlight the importance of the Collinson brothers within the firm. And I talk a bit about the idea of Stripe being the money operating system for businesses online and offline. And I talk a bit more about future growth prospects for the firm. And if you're interested in that, please feel free to subscribe on Substack as well. So if you want to sum it up, Stripe is a payment processor in the US, and they're in direct competition with other players like Adyen. Adyen is a bigger player in Europe, for example, and they partner with a lot of merchants around the world. But if you talk about the customer itself, most customers in the US at least use Cash App or either PayPal. And Cash App is probably the best way to acquire consumers from that perspective. But Cash App, to be honest, I'm not really a fan of the company because it is led by Jack Dorsey. And Jack Dorsey mismanaged the company in a big way, in my opinion. He acquired Tidal, at least parts of it. That's kind of a music company. And he's doing a lot of stuff with Bitcoin and stuff, which is really not really bringing the company forward. And they also acquired Afterpay. That's kind of like a buy now, pay later opportunity. But if you look at Block in particular, you can see that the margins are really not that great. There's a lot of dilution, and the company really didn't really perform well. So I think it's better to look at other payment processors like Adyen. Adyen, for example, is highly profitable. You can see here return on equity with 28%. That's quite strong. And if we look at cash flows, it's definitely rising by quite a bit. And Adyen is really the big competitor to Stripe, and their valuation is kind of similar in most years. But the big difference is that Adyen is the public company and Stripe is still privately held. So Stripe will probably do an IPO in the next few years, probably when the IPO window opens up a bit again. I think then Stripe will really debut on the markets, and then it's really Stripe versus Adyen. Okay, and the old players, which are still dominating the place, are definitely Visa and Mastercard. And they're really competitive businesses because they have really high margins and they really buy back a lot of stock. If we have a look here at repurchased common stock, that's every year they buy back so much stock. So it's really a compounding machine, similar to Mastercard. Those businesses are quite similar in general. Fantastic businesses. But whether those businesses are able to defend against competitors in the future, that has to be seen. And it's more probable, in my opinion, that someone like Apple is coming into the fintech space and is gaining market share because they are owning the consumers, at least at the moment. Okay, that was a quick overview about the fintech space. If you want to talk about something more in particular, please write something down below in the comments. That would be much appreciated. And lastly, as a disclaimer, none of those topics discussed in this episode were any financial, legal, or tax advice. So please bear that in mind that we only exchanged opinions here, and you can definitely lose what you put in. All right, that's it for today, and see you until next time. Bye.